Today's sponsors are Angelo's Interiors, specialising in kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. Go and visit their showroom today in Gillingham. Their web address is angelosinteriors.com. And Dimodici Associates, Chartered Structural and Civil Engineers.
Based in the UK with a worldwide reach.
Visit their website on dimodiciassociates.com.
Welcome to the Cherrywood Podcast with me, Simon Burridge.
And me, Rachel Burridge.
Generally, I'll sort of, I'm up for it. Yeah, I will, really.
Because we all get naked halfway through.
Well, I don't know if I want that filmed. It might frighten people.
Did your guy not mention that? Is it Callum?
Yeah, Callum. Yeah, he's on holiday for the next couple of days. Bugger.
Right, so what we asked you to do before we start is we asked you...
Yeah, give a moonie.
No, we asked you to get up and take the clapper board, go in front of the camera, say who you are, give it a clap, come back, sit down.
Okay, so
we started.
What, this one here?
Yeah, that one.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
The only camera that's on the chair.
Sorry.
All right, I know you're used to loads of cameras. Don't start bragging.
Right, so you just want me to say
your name and what you are.
Kelly Toe, right, and then just do a loud. That's it. Right, okay. Sorry.
Female?
Right, okay. Tell me just
Anytime you want.
Right. Kelly Tolhurst, Member of Parliament for Rochester and Strood.
Perfect. We'll put that back up there so everyone knows who you are.
That's answered my first question then.
That was my first question. Who is this person?
Right, well, there's another thing we do. We have a sign up there, and it always falls off the wall. And now we've made a thing of it from the very start. If you can time, and you clap your hand, say 10 minutes from now,
right.
If it falls off the wall 10 minutes from now and you're the nearest after the year, £100 from us goes to a charity of your choice.
Oh, very good. Right, okay.
You haven't hooked that up though, have you?
No, I haven't hooked it. No, it's
right,
just
so how, right, okay, so...
Shall I get some information for that? Is it new tape?
It's new tape.
Okay, new tape, so new double-sided tape.
Right, new tape.
I'll give you an average, 25 minutes, 30 minutes usually, but you've got new as your special, you've got new double-sided tape. You'll never guess it anyway. Someone's 2 seconds away. Someone's already 2 seconds away.
Are they? Yeah, okay. 42 minutes.
Right, from now. Right, okay, perfect. Right, Kelly, thank you for coming on the podcast. Very weird having an MP with us. And sorry about the red curtains. You don't come out in hives or anything, do you?
No.
Just so you know about this podcast, right, we just talk about people's lives.
Yeah.
And how you got to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Our one rule is we don't do political, right? Yeah. So what should we do? We get an MP in. So, how did you become an MP? What did you do beforehand? Everything like that.
Yeah. So, well, So I'm sort of. I always say to people, I'm like an accidental MP, because I never ever in a million years would I ever have thought that I would have even tried to become a member of parliament, let alone actually be sort of accepted as a parliament as a parliamentarian, so as a candidate. But basically, I had been running my own business in Rochester for about 17 years.
What was that?
So I am a marine surveyor by trade, so so surveying boats and also providing paints to boat builders, boat manufacturers. Right. Because I'm a daughter of a boat builder. Okay. My dad has got had a boatyard in Rochester because I lost my dad a couple of years ago. But prior to that, so I started the business in 2002. And prior to that, I'd been working in the food industry. So I worked for New Zealand Lamb, I worked for a seafood company and a French dairy, and I used to sell to the supermarkets.
Oh, right, okay.
But it was a complete career change, but I'd always wanted to do something on my own. And I'd left school at 16, gone to college, didn't really like that, went into work, and basically
What did you study at college?
So I first went into, I joined a leisure and tourism course, because at the time when I was, I don't know how old you guys are.
I'm
but
5 years older than you. Without saying your age.
So when we were at school locally, there were very sort of narrow, if you went to comprehensive school locally, there were quite narrow opportunities for you. So it was either pushing you into leisure and tourism, travel and tourism, business. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Anyway, I didn't last at that. Went straight out into work, and I fell into New Zealand Farmers, and New Zealand Farmers paid for me whilst I was working in London to basically do my postgraduate diploma.
Right, okay.
So I spent 4 years travelling to college twice a week whilst working in London for 4 years, but they paid for me. So it was like a mini apprenticeship. I always say it wasn't an apprenticeship, but...
Yeah. So you commuted to London.
Yeah.
So I commuted to London, work.
Similar to you at that age, Rach, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did my degree, and then whenever you used to have the the big summers and the big Christmases, because they were different from universities, you used to get like 2-3 weeks off at Christmas. Yeah. Half terms, they used to sort of be like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. And I used to go and work in London with my mum.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it up there.
That's right. And it was great. And, it was really, I loved that. I love sales. I obviously, my hobby was sailing. So I was, and, coming from a sort of a family that sort of been on the river for donkey's years, and I just wanted to do something on my own, and the opportunity did. So, and so that's what I've been doing. And I didn't come from a political family. Mum and Dad were really engaged with current affairs. We used to talk about politics, but we weren't political. No. And what happened was, where my dad's boatyard was in Rochester, the playing fields opposite the boatyard, the council decided to close the local school down and build on the playing fields. And all the local community were sort of against it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. We've got 5 football fields that are really busy, really popular, really need them in the Medway towns. So basically I worked with the community, even though I was living over this side of the river, over Strood. So I worked with them and sort of fought the council on building on the playing fields. And then one of the councillors at the time, a guy called Ted Baker, Ted Baker, who was, a very sort of, long-standing councillor across Rochester and Strood over the years, came up to me and said, Kelly, actually, we'd quite like to have you with us rather than against us. And so that was the first time I'd ever thought about even thinking about joining a political party. So I joined the party, Conservative Party, and then he basically ended up standing as a local councillor, which was fine, because that was just really focused on my local issues. And then I was quite happy with that. And then obviously we had the guy who was the MP at the time defected to another party, created a by-election, and someone said to me, you should go for that. I said, they'd never have me. And well, I ended up being the candidate.
And the first time I heard of you, I was going up Strood past what's that school with the windmill?
Oh, Strood Academy.
Strood Academy. I was getting onto the A2, and then there was a banner with your face on it. And that must have been about 2016.
Yeah, that was near when we moved in.
Yeah, because I was born in Northfleet. Rachel's a chap. She was born over that way. And we got together, and then we moved to Strood, and we live up sort of the Recourt Road.
Strood. Strood.
Nearly, not far from the Rochester football.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is a bit weird, isn't it? Rochester Football Club in Strood. And that was the first time we see you. And Strood, if I'm honest, Strood used to be a place you drove through to get to Rochester.
Yeah, that's right.
And I used to be, Strood.
No.
But I must admit, we've been here since 2016. And it's a lovely little town, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased because I have grown up here. So I went to what was chapter school, which was on Cliff Road, then moved, which became Strood Academy. And I had 1 year at the Strood Academy site when it was still called chapter.
Right.
And I mean, we're lucky in Strood and the surrounding areas because I always think we've got the best of both worlds. We're really close to the town, but we've still got quite a lot of green space.
Yeah.
And you can you feel semi-rural, particularly in places where you are.
Yeah. We're back onto a field. That's what sold it to us.
Field, and we've got Strood's it's small in some respects, so you're close to everything. So I think we're really lucky, and I'm sadly, I always say to people, a lot of my friends moved away, gone to different places, but I'm one of the, I've stayed where I've lived really. So I apart from sort of small stints in other places, this is still my home.
Exactly.
Really.
So I've been about. I've been Kings Hill and Hadlow. But
I've been about.
in more ways than one, unfortunately.
I've travelled.
I've
travelled.
I've been about.
Travelled around the M25.
Basically. But I always end up back in this sort of area within 8 miles of where I was born for some reason. But I think it's because it's just convenient. You've got a bit of countryside. London's just up the road. You can watch a show in the O2.
Yeah.
If you get away just before the last song, you're home in half hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just perfect.
Yeah. Oh no, and this is the thing around about the Medway towns anyway. And it's not until you start going to different places around the country that you do realise how much we've got.
How blessed we are.
And I know it sounds weird, but only recently have I appreciated how, like you said, how green it is around here. I know we're
going to say me then.
Sorry, babe, no. But how green it is in Kent. I know they say Kent is the Garden of England, but I used to just think, whatever. Yeah. But when you actually go to other places, you realise how much green space we actually have in Kent. It's
Don't
amazing.
Say that. Start building on it.
Well, that's right. That there is that challenge, but we do have, we're close to London. We've got access to dry ski slopes, swimming pools, ice rinks, town centres, work. One of the things about the Medway area and this area was that people have always come to the towns for work because of our industries and the fact that we also had a massive military presence at one time across the sort of Medway towns. I mean, and I've noticed when you go to other parts, you just take it for granted. So whilst people will moan about certain things about this area, I think we're very lucky.
Because we did have a conversation the other day about the statue in Chatham, didn't we? And how he's constantly got that cone on his head. And if he doesn't, it's like, where's the cone gone? It's not normal now.
That's exactly. Yeah. No, that's right.
Right. So you deal with Rochester and Strood.
Yep.
Neighbouring MPs.
Yes.
So what would that be? Chatham and...
So you've got Chatham and Aylesford and then Gillingham and Rainham.
Are they all Conservative?
At the moment they are, yep.
So have you ever been in a situation where you've been beside someone that's been like at Labour or something like that, and how would you liaise with them? Do you liaise with them anyway?
Yeah, you do. So in Parliament, so from a local perspective, there's only one per constituency, so you sort of do your thing in your constituency. But in Parliament, actually, and what the media don't always show
surprise,
so people think PMQs and the sort of I don't know, what do you want to, the shouting, the aggression is how Parliament...
That's all they want to show.
How Parliament is. But actually, that's not the case. If it was like that, it wouldn't really function all the time.
No, if you go on the Parliament channel when there's nothing happening, there's about 5 of you in there asking genuine questions and getting genuine answers.
Absolutely. And also, I think, yes, there's political differences, but also... you do, the best way of getting something agreed is by working cross-party. So, you sit on select committee. So at the moment, I'm sitting on the Northern Ireland Select Committee.
Right, okay.
So there's 3 Conservatives, there's an SDLP from Northern Ireland, the DUP, Labour, and you work together. And quite often there's you come to a conclusion together for your reports. And if you've got a particular campaign in the House of Commons, you do want to get opposition support. So your go-to sort of MP colleagues who are from the other parties and say, will you sign up for this? Will you back my campaign? And quite often there is a lot of cross-party working. And, there's some people within the Labour Party, who, you know, I have immense respect for and who I regard as pals. So they try and sort of show that everyone's at each other all the time, but it's not
then,
quite like that.
Then in turn, the people watching that are at each other. Because it makes the Conservative person be at a Labour person because they don't see the the coalition every now and then.
That's right.
So going back to obviously
God, I used a big word, coalition. I've just got to get over that. Well.
Going back to friendships, do you have friends that are of the other parties that you have to sort of say, when you come around to my house, no politics, you know, we are actually friends?
Do you switch off?
Look, I am who I am. I'm a Conservative. That's who I am. But if you want to be whatever you are, whoever you are, that's fine. I'm never really going to get into a debate, or I'm never going to make it a problem, because politics, views, values, it's all personal to everyone. You know, I'm sort of being upfront about mine, but, you know, I'm not going to, I would never, I mean, I've got friends. I mean, one of the biggest compliments I've ever had, and I'll tell her I've said this today, or I'll show her this podcast. So my friend, who I've known for a long time, is, you know, a real staunch Labour supporter. And we had a conversation once, and my friend, who I'm very incredibly proud of her, she's a PhD student from Cambridge, and
she knows who she is now.
Right. And she's very successful. And we had a debate one evening, and she said to me, "Oh, I don't like talking to you. You mess with my head." and I took that as quite a compliment, because I'm not a Cambridge educated. So I took that as well, that's great. But no, I mean, that's ultimately politics is personal, and you know, whatever political persuasion you are, despite what the media say, actually most of us are good people. You know, we're all trying to, we've decided on public service. We're putting our heads above the parapet on things sometimes. And actually everyone is working for the betterment of the country or their area, whatever political party you're
Their mindset is they want the best.
Absolutely.
So I was thinking about what I was going to say next, but it didn't come out. I was going to say I've swung in the past.
We don't want to know about that.
But what I'm trying to say,
I was going to say, it's all coming out today, isn't it?
What I'm trying to say is, I'm not going to say what party I'm with, because it doesn't matter. But I've swung from party to party. And personally, I feel that's a healthy way to be, because you are able to be convinced otherwise. See where I'm coming from?
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the fact, you know, I know you've got to stay as Conservative. Hopefully this has gone into politics, this question.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah, but, you know, surely it's far better to be someone like me, you know, handsome and a swing voter. No, a swing voter. I'm running, because I've added a joke now, I've messed myself up. Surely it's more healthy to be someone that's easily convinced than someone that's just fixed on a party, regardless of if they're performing well in their eyes or not. Do you see where I'm coming from?
But again, it goes back to what I said about it being so personal. You know, there would be a number of reasons why you would choose to support one political party or another, whether it be at election time or for the whole of your life, you know, and your experiences and, you know, upbringings and the influences around you will have a major impact on whether you are a staunch you know, lifelong supporter of one party, or whether you are a swing voter. And you know, so it is, so I think, as with all things, you know, having that you know, difference is, you know, really, you know, we're all I know it sounds sort of like a rather sort of bland response, but it's sort of, you know, everyone's different. So I think, you know, and there are so many reasons why people will make a decision on a lot of things. You know, it could be very specific. People could make a political decision based on something that might not necessarily affect them. But then others will be completely focused on what it is exactly affects them directly.
But unfortunately, a lot of it's decided on what they've been told. through the media.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the media is really, really
In control.
powerful and in control, and that's why it's incumbent on us as politicians to do our best to get our messages out. But unfortunately, and I do think it's sad. I mean, I always respected I've always respected sort of politicians before I was involved in it because they. They're in a privileged position. But the problem is, I think the narrative now around politicians is that, we're these bad people all out for ourselves. We're all rich.
On a jolly.
We're all on a jolly.
It's like the taxman, isn't it? Everyone goes, taxman.
But the reality
What time's our limo coming?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's an interesting one. When I turn up to meetings sometimes or visits, people are saying, "Oh, are you on your own?" I say, "Yeah."
They think you've got an entourage like Mike Tyson, didn't they?
The sad thing about that is that I do know that it does put people off.
Without doubt.
And the worst thing for democracy, whether I'm an MP in the future, it doesn't matter. But what you want is real people with real experiences and people who have had a life, people who have been successful, people who have had all those different experiences who want to come into politics.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever stop people wanting to be an MP, but actually you want good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you get taught how to act and what to say in front of
any
public
training as an MP?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
So
Not
this
even
is
like the Honourable Gentleman and all that. You just
you get sort of told that that's the convention. The joke is actually, I had never been to Parliament actually until I was elected. So I'd never done a tour of the House of Commons, never been anywhere near the chamber. So it was a brand new experience for me. And when I won, the neighbouring MP, Raymond Tristy for Gillingham and Raynham, rang me over the weekend because the election was on the Thursday and we were back in the House of Commons on the Monday. And he said, "Kelly, I'll meet you at Portcullis House on Monday morning, so I'll show you the ropes." And literally turned up at Portcullis House and they gave us a pass. They gave me a laptop, a locker key, and that was it. Get on with it.
Oh my God.
And the first week was hell because obviously people had been emailing me over that weekend on this new Parliament email address that I'd had. And, I was in a panic mode, really. I've got all these people who need help or things to be dealt with. And, oh, my God,
So what year was that, sorry?
That was 2015.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So,
so literally overnight.
So it was 15, we moved house 15,
We
didn't
did,
we?
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
15,
in
not
October,
16.
yeah.
2015. And, so it was sort of, you went and I wanted to be able to do my best, and that's the panic.
It's the first time you want to be the best you can possibly be.
That's it.
So would you say that maybe the Houses of Parliament need to do it? Obviously not a certain party, the actual House, but some sort of training and induction.
Yeah, I think it's so luckily for me, because I'd run my own business for 17 years, I sort of, I'm used to being a self-starter.
Yeah.
I had some experience about how you employ people, all of those sort of things. So I was able to say, right, okay, I can manage this. But if you hadn't been in that position, you never had to deal with a recruitment process or...
and just got thrown in the deep end. Really.
Yeah, exactly, or set things up, or think about things like we had to find constituency offices, get insurance for that, public liability insurance, employers liability insurance.
Yeah.
You have to do all these things, and it's literally like running a little business. MPs' offices, and the reality of it is, you do need a team. Unfortunately, the level of communication and things that come into an MP's office, you just cannot physically do it on your own.
Definitely not.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So but it's fine.
And are you allowed to still run your old business?
So the way it works for MPs is that you can have. You are allowed to do things. It's quite legal at the moment. They're debating it at the moment.
Right.
You are allowed to have what people call second jobs. So, for example, you get a lot of people who are doctors or nurses who keep their hand in, and, you know, people who may do bits and bobs of things. I personally, when I was elected, I don't actually work. I don't work in the business. So, you know, the whole idea of that was that, you know, if I was going to be an MP, I'd do it full time.
Yeah,
so,
right, okay.
So, yeah, so I it's not something that I've...
So with that business,
So you no longer have your business?
Yeah, I was going to say, did you give it to someone?
No. So I'm still a director. So it's still mine, but my father ran it, you know, and that's the joke. You know, Dad said to me, you know, because having run my own business, it gave me the opportunity to be the Member of Parliament, really, because I had time to campaign.
Right, yeah.
If I worked for someone else, it might have been hard to do that.
Yeah.
And the joke was with my poor old dad. He said, "No, Kelly, you go off and do this by-election for 6 weeks. I'll run everything
For 6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks turned into 6 months, which turned into 6 years. And so, yeah, but, you know, again, you can't do it without the support of your family.
No.
And Mum and Dad, you know, again, they probably became more political once I had got elected.
Right.
But they, you know, I'm lucky. You know, I had parents that basically said, do it. You know, have a go. Doesn't matter if you fail. Just have a go.
Yeah. Wow, that's so nice that they have that support for you, and because obviously you don't want to know their political views and stuff like that, because they might not. They will support you, but they might not be conservative.
Yeah, but that's right. But I also think I was lucky because, and I say that, and I've developed my political views because I was lucky enough to grow in a household where you could basically have discussions and have differences of opinion. So we talked about things as a family, but you could disagree and it was fine.
Where some families would tell you off.
So I feel so my parents are to blame, really, because they sort of gave me that freedom, I suppose,
to have the debates and have the difference of opinion.
Nothing wrong with that.
And having sort of your own thought. Which I was like, you know, so there we go.
Oh, no, I like that. I like that.
Her daughter has her own faults, doesn't she?
Definitely.
And it's, you know, and well, yeah, I mean...
Because if we ever say to her, well, but you're wrong, put an argument towards us, don't we? And she says, well, actually, I've done this, and this, and I've said this. And you're like, okay then.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, that's great.
She just try and change our minds sometimes.
She got everything at school. At junior school, she was everything. But she couldn't get school counsellor. She couldn't
captain. It was.
She got captain. It was counsellor.
No, it was. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry about her.
Sorry. No, I thought you meant the one that she got in year 6.
Yeah, she got everything. She was captain, everything, but she could not, for the life of her, get school counsellor.
School counsellor.
Our son, who doesn't care, is counsellor.
He's one of those kids that's like, okay, I'll do this if you want me to. Or
she got a voice message. Yes, who's school counsellor? Like, she couldn't believe it. She was so jealous.
She was like, that's the one thing I didn't get.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. No, I mean, and also it's quite funny because my niece, who's 13 now, when I first got involved, she was only sort of 4, and, you know, she's grown up with me being a member of Parliament, so to speak, and actually she sees me as a female role model.
Right.
So she's quite independent. I mean, her mother is independent as well. You know, she's another force. But yeah, I mean, it's been good for her to see, you know, another strong mum, strong auntie, and she's quite funny now at 13.
I've always instilled in Tilly, like, she's like, oh, when I grow up, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get a nice car. I said, you work for it then. I said, don't let anyone else pay for it. I said, if you want these things, you go out and get them, and you go and work, and then it's that sense of achievement within you. I said, you can do anything you want. She's like, yeah,
and she can. She's so intelligent. It's unbelievable.
Really
it's very exciting, actually. I think for youngsters now, opportunities, I think there are for, you know, in some respects, they're bigger opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right,
so
go on.
Going through, obviously, your journey, have you ever you must obviously get a lot of abuse and a lot of negative comments towards you.
Can I jump in quickly? Right, we obviously this podcast's only begun a couple of months, and it's doing all right. And they go, "Who are you going to get on? Who are you going to get on?" I said, "Well, we got MP Kelly Tolhurst coming on." Like I've said this to a couple. Oh, have you? Will you tell her that someone keeps nicking my bins? Are you sick of people talking to you about bins, even though it's got absolutely nothing to do with you?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you recognise that.
Yeah, they think you're part of the council. They think you work for the council. I don't ever remember seeing you pick up my bins and empty them.
No.
You're welcome to, but
It's quite interesting. So I made a decision when I was first elected that no matter what people got in touch with me about, I would try and deal with it for them rather than pass them on. So the consequence of that is I do deal with people who potentially have had their bins nicked. And, I will, basically, whether it's a small issue or a large issue, because quite frankly, people sometimes don't understand the difference between a councillor and a MP.
Exactly.
And, they just know that they're a person that they can contact for help or support or whatever that is.
You're a voice for them, basically.
Yeah,
a voice that will hopefully be listened to by the council.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of one of those things where I don't have any powers of direction or necessary influence over the council, but what I can do is ask questions and try and help them, or try and get the council to take a decision, or try and raise the issue. So I deal with I will deal with any piece of casework that anyone comes to me with, even if it is sort of quite not so serious. Your bins is not as serious as someone who's maybe got not getting the support they need from the hospital, for example, or there's a legal issue, or there's a financial issue or housing issue. There's so many things.
It's quite funny because the last post I see of yours was talking about the roadworks.
Oh yeah,
and I jumped on the bandwagon just like the bin man. Because you mentioned Arriva buses. I went talking about Arriva buses.
Yeah.
I said our daughter's not getting picked up. They keep leaving them stranded. The school kids stranded. And I said, I don't know what I said. I said something like that. We're paying a certain amount of money a year, and the bus just doesn't turn up with no notice. It's happened twice this week.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, it's quite interesting. So that particular issue with the traffic, the only reason I found out about that was I had Arriva in to my office because I was sort of raising some of the issues with people on the peninsula with regards to one of the bus services and in another part of the constituency, and they sort of said, well, we understand and we're sorry, and we went through a load of things, but did you know that the council were going to shut the road for 3 months? And that's how I found out.
Right.
So, but anyway,
a lot of the bus stuff is human error for us. There's been times when the boys' grammar school's been closed, the girls' grammar school's been open, and the drivers looked to see if there's a load of boys and gone straight past with one girl just stopped. That's human error. You can sort of understand. Yeah. But then there's times when there's just that number of bus just isn't there.
No, I know. And my niece has had challenges as well, sort of coming from, trying to get from sort of Chatham to home. But, and that's the thing. And so people do. So what would happen in that? So parents do get in touch with me and will say, look, we're not happy with our daughter or son being left, and what my immediate response will be is, quite often I won't know what the intricacies are on all the bus routes.
Of course.
But what I do is I will write to Arriva and say, this is what's happened. What's your response? Get a response from them, see what they say, see whether we're going to take it further. In this case, I actually got them into the office for a meeting because I'd had a number of issues that I wasn't necessarily satisfied with some of the responses I was getting. So it was easy.
They've
to
heard
sort
from
of
Rachel a few times as well.
and particularly with school services and services for young people, and it is worrying for parents and the young people themselves because it's part of the day where you can't control where they are.
Exactly.
If you're a parent, it's frightening.
We've had a call from our daughter saying they haven't let me on the bus. There's a safety guy outside and he won't let me, saying the bus is too full.
Yeah.
When her friend has got a seat for her, has kept a seat for her.
So they left her on the corner.
Our 11-year-old has been left in the
11.
dark.
Yeah. Because she was in year 7, wasn't she? Yeah. So she
in the
was
dark.
11.
Her first year, been left in the dark.
Crikey.
And it was raining.
She wasn't late.
and-
She just happened to be beaten by the other kids. Going to
Yeah, I mean, things like that, people, do, that's, I mean, a lot of people won't, but a lot, that is stuff that I can't deal with issues unless I'm aware of them.
No, of
Absolutely.
course.
So that's why I always say, sometimes won't necessarily be able to get a resolution to that.
No,
other
no,
than
not
raise
at all.
the issue and
No.
make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But unless people are coming to me saying, actually, this is happening really regularly, I can't address it
No, I
because I
understand.
don't know. But if I know about it, I will
Then
try
you
and
can say
address
it.
it.
Actually,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's
the
on
problem
your
with
radar
us,
then.
the problem with us is you can understand this happening, and they're going to have problems. They're not doing this on purpose.
No.
They're not doing this, but you're paying for a service. If we went to a wedding, films the ceremony, didn't bother filming the speeches, and then filmed the first dance,
Yeah.
they would expect money taken away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you pay Aviva.
Aviva.
Is it Aviva they call it?
Aviva,
You
yeah.
pay Aviva this amount of money, and there's no sort of comeback.
Sorry about this.
There's no
yeah.
comeback for that.
Yeah, and
There's not even a
because
problem.
when they were striking a few years ago, it must have been in year 7 because Tilly just got on the bus by then, and there was the odd day.
Sorry
here
that
and
we've gone
there.
on buses.
Sorry, it's only because we obviously have
But it's important for a lot of people.
It's just
that's it.
it's the safety of our kids.
yeah.
She's gone from being a 10-year-old being walked to school, and then 2 months later, she's an 11-year-old being stranded at a bus stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she and like what was that? Oh,
Sorry,
I
Rach.
forgot.
She doesn't.
Yeah,
interrupted.
I do it on purpose.
Now it's completely gone. Sorry. Thanks though.
Right, moving on. So, are you abused on the street?
So no is the
Good.
answer. So I have to say one of the touching wood. Really, I should touch them.
That bit's Cherrywood. Yeah.
Touch wood. So one of the things. So I think. I mean, people are lovely.
Good.
Actually,
Good.
people are brilliant, and most people, even if they don't like you or disagree with you for whatever reasons, are nice, and that's one of the things that I always say. I have had some issues over the years that I've been a member of Parliament, but in general, people are nice,
Right.
and as I say, even if they don't agree with you, people are generally just respectful,
Good.
pleasant.
Did you get noticed?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that's because of my hair. I don't know. People will, whether they like my hair or not,
You've got a
people have
mane
a lot
on
to
you.
say
You've got
about
a
my
mane
hair.
on you.
But yeah, and that's sort of fine, But yeah, I don't have, people don't tend to abuse you in the street. They might do it on social media, and via online forms, and some of it's pretty nasty, and actually it's my staff who have to sort of it gets to them as well. But we've had some difficult, I've had some, we've had issues where we've had to get the police involved over the last. So, but I am, I consider myself relatively lucky. Yeah.
I think with today's technology and with the rise of social media, it's so much easier for someone to have an opinion on something that you do, something that you say, and every part of that is criticised. You can say one tiny thing and you're criticised 10 million times. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's their platform to have an opinion, really. So you can't ever stop that.
No.
But the source of their opinion is...
Yeah. I mean, I think
it's the way they do it.
Yeah, and I think, quite often, some of what, look, I always say, it doesn't matter. You can disagree with me on everything because that is your right, because we do still live in a democracy where you can have differences of opinion and you can share that. But what I'm referring to is I'm not talking about people who are, disagreeing with me on a policy point.
No.
I'm talking about, you know, it's the nasty, it's the abuse, it's the sort of rudeness, it's the personal attack, it's the vile language. You know, actually, you can have quite legitimately disagree with someone very strongly without actually it descending into sort of.
But sometimes those sort of conversations are good. Like a good debate is really interesting, and then you can actually go away and dissect it and say, oh, actually that point is good, or this point is good, and then come to a conclusion that way.
Debate, you know, sort of strengthens ideas. I mean, that's the whole point of the House of Commons.
Yeah.
You know, you go into a debate on a piece of legislation, you listen to what other people are saying, you have your views challenged, you challenge other people's views, and then hopefully the outcome of that is that you end up with a better piece of work because actually you've taken that advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a fine line between passion and anger as well, you know, and I was very good at looking angry when I was actually feeling inside passionate, but expressing in an angry way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you just got all these ideas that you go, oh, I need to get all of this out.
Yeah.
But because you do it so quick and so, please let me just finish.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just
frustration, you know, looks like anger sometimes.
But, you know, as I say, MPs in general, you know, have had, I mean, it's quite normal for MPs to get death threats. You know, it's quite normal for MPs to have, you know, I mean, there's quite a lot, you know, and this is all political parties, not just one or the other. Some of it is quite frightening and worrying, and unfortunately, I do put that down to the fact that the narrative about MPs, you know, look, there's 650 MPs in this country. You're going to get your good, your bad, and your ugly, because that's what happens in any organisation where there's 650 people. Unfortunately, with MPs, everything is in the public domain. And, you know, but we're not all bad people. And really, we want a strong democracy. We want MPs to express views and be different and be who they are. We need representatives to not be frightened to say things or express views for fear of, you know, what may or may not happen to them.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not just us, it's our families. You know, my family's local. So, you know, my mum, my sister, my family see this stuff, you know, and actually it can be quite frightening for them as well. And actually my friends as well, you know, it's, but you know, but that's part of the job. And people say, oh, you know, you put yourself there, you do it. You're right. I put myself in, and I'm always up for a debate. But you know, I do have to say that some of the aggression is, you know,
absolutely. Yeah. But I look at it as think if someone agrees with you 100%, like if the country all agreed on one policy, something's gone wrong. You know, you need to have that debate. Right. You need to have that difference of opinion to actually prove your point almost, don't you?
That's right. And you know what? There's very little where everyone will on virtually no issue, people will have a homogenous opinion. And literally, you know, that there's a nuance or a different way of looking at everything. So you can't satisfy everyone or deliver everything that anyone.
We don't agree on anything.
That's just marriage, though.
There was a time I got a friend. I've got a number of friends who are videographers, and I got called by a friend to do a second shooter job. He said, "Am I available for a second shooter job?" I can't remember the date. I should remember the date, but I can't. In Westminster, and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm already booked. I'm gutted," because he's a really close friend of mine, and he got someone else to do it. And it was the day of the that guy attacking, you know, coming onto the bridge with a car, and killing the policeman. And the second shooter that took my job had to get on the ground. He was that close to it all. It all happening. Was you in Parliament that day?
Yeah, I was. And interestingly enough, that day I had a young person with me who at the time she was a looked after child, someone that I'd known since before I became an MP, and she was doing work experience with me that week. And it was horrendous because we got locked down and we were in, you know, she was with her foster carers were sort of waiting for her to come home, and she was doing work experience and we got locked down in Westminster Hall. And we didn't really sort of understand what was going on at first, really, because it was crazy because we saw the response unit come through the House of Commons with their guns, their masks, their helmets, and clear everyone out. They were searching the premises and sort of herded us into these areas within the House of Commons for quite a long time.
Because they got rid of Theresa quite quick, didn't they? Because that's the footage you could see on the news. They managed, because Theresa May was...
So were you allowed your phones and sort of having the updates and knowing what was actually going on outside?
Yeah, we could see what was going on outside via the phones and the internet, but we weren't allowed in our offices, we weren't allowed in the chamber. Or no, actually, people who were in the chamber got locked in the chamber.
Right.
So it just basically went on lockdown because I think at the time people were trying to work out, well, the authorities were trying to work out, was this an isolated incident or was there more to come or was there more going on? And it was a really, really difficult and horrific.
Because the policeman lost his life, didn't he?
Yeah, PC Keith Barmy.
Keith Barmy. He's a Charlton Athletic supporter.
Yeah.
And they've still got his.
And what they've done at Charlton, I'm a Charlton fan. I used to be Charlton mascot for 10 years, and they've made one white seat in all the Reds. There's one white seat,
and that's his,
which was his seat, and his family can use that for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So.
But I wasn't involved. That sounds really wrong. But I was in an office above Aldgate Station when the 7/7 bombings happened, and it was that scary. It was that same situation where someone comes in, tells you to get away from the windows. You don't know what's going on. You've got, because I was on reception, you've got all these people phoning up saying, "Is my son okay?" Blah blah, and then you try and phone their desk and they're not there, and you have to say to the parents, "I can't get hold of them." And obviously, it was very limited phone service, and it's horrendously scary. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It was scary, it's really tragic, and it's just a horrific time, and and it just shows us that there is a real threat out there, and it's not just been in London and Westminster. We've seen it in different parts of Europe, which I think all democracies, worried now, particularly about certain different sort of terrorist.
Did it scare you personally on a personal level? Did you think?
Did you feel safe, or
is it going back up there afterwards?
I do. Yes, of course, it was scary. Someone lost. This was no joke. Someone was murdered. That's basically, and people were injured, and it was horrific. But no, I think I know London. I know my home.
Yeah.
You can't let those people stop you from being, from being scared. But no, I think you're always slightly aware of what's around you and what's going on around you, because potentially you are a target, not because of who you are, but because of what you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it was that week was one of the worst weeks and horrific for the people who had to deal with.
Really the wrong time for the football.
Sorry. I didn't win that. No.
I didn't think it was going to go. I did glance and think that's not going to go, and I really wanted to go for Kelly.
I don't think I got that one. But yeah, it was scary, but we just carried on, and I think there was definitely an overwhelming sense of everyone coming together and saying, we are not going to allow these people to stop us from carrying out our business, and obviously we haven't.
Good, that's brilliant. Moving on to something else. We always want to know how much royal stuff you get involved in. So have you been to, look, I'm guessing, obviously, the Queen's funeral you must have been invited to. Maybe not?
Yeah, no, I didn't do... No, I had... It's quite interesting. So so with the Queen, I met the Queen in 2017.
I've never seen the Queen in my whole life.
I've seen her once, and that was at Royal Ascot, and she was about this big.
Yeah, she's tiny. So basically, there was the anniversary of the Royal Engineers being in Chatham Barracks.
Yeah.
And she was the Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Engineers.
Okay.
And so she made a visit to Brompton, I think I'm sure it was 2017. And because I was a member of Parliament, I was lucky enough to meet her and shake her hand along with the police, the mayor, the Lord Lieutenant of Kent, and some other sort of local dignitaries at the time, which was amazing.
Did she chat to you?
Yeah.
Nice hair, did she say?
No, the thing that I
recognise that hair.
for me, which sticks in my mind, is that she's incredibly smiley, because I had sort of seen her on TV and
she was always very.
I thought she was quite straight faced, but actually she was incredibly smiling, and so it was the interesting thing was, obviously you get told, you've got, curtsy, and then you don't put your hand out. She offers her hand.
Yeah.
And obviously she wears gloves. And I remember, so there's this little lady who is our queen, puts a hand out to me. And I was expecting it to be a really sort of, a sort of like a weak.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, she's been doing it for a long time.
Queen. It was a really strong handshake.
Really?
Oh yes. So, and I was really that's what really threw me.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it would be where she's shaking people's hands all the time. It would be sort of just a more of a hand brush. As opposed
of course.
to a proper handshake. But
if anything, she's got the strongest handshake muscle.
well, that's right. But it wasn't what I was expecting, and because obviously she was quite elderly at that time. So that's what took me back. How purposeful her handshake is. So there we go.
Oh, so you didn't. Did all the MPs get invited?
No, so we didn't get invited to the funeral. So basically, there was only a few members of Parliament that were involved in the actual official sort of funeral proceedings, and I did miss out because under Boris, in his last week, I was made Deputy Chief Whip.
Right. Okay.
And the Whip's office play a massive role in those.
And it just changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it just changed. So my friend Craig Whitaker, who MP took over from me, he actually walked. He had a proper role within the funeral, but no,
wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, we watched it online, and we were able to obviously go and visit her coffin when it was laying in state at the Westminster, and obviously there are a number of events that we held within Westminster, sort of to mark it. But that was a crazy day because actually, and the thing. So I think that I was the last minister to speak at the dispatch box in the House of Commons under Queen Elizabeth II's government.
Wow.
Because
I'll use that in a quiz.
Yeah, so I think I was the last minister to speak, because what happened was I was doing a debate, and all of us, there was pandemic. We knew something was going on because we saw, everything sort of came alive, and obviously what we, obviously when they made the announcement, it probably happened prior to that.
Yeah, it was around the 5-6 o'clock time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was at the Belfry at the time playing golf.
Oh, yeah. That's Craig Whitaker. No, Craig Tracy, another one of my friend MPs. Anyway, I'm going well.
That's when it was announced. While I was getting ready, I finished a round and getting ready to go and eat, and that's when it was announced. So it's around the 5-6 o'clock time.
Yeah. And but it was really, it was just sort of, I never thought that. Yeah.
Well, she's been in our lives our whole lives.
Well, absolutely, and it was a big shock. I think everyone was genuinely, sad.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it was so well done. The funeral was so well done. And I don't know if you watched The Crown as well, do you?
No, I don't actually.
Right, but they did a really good job at it. Good tip of the hat to her as well, to be honest. And I know there's some controversy around The Crown and what they've done and what they've said, but to her, it was perfect.
Yeah, and so that was unbelievable, really. But yes, I only ever met the Queen once, and but yeah, I mean, a lot of people never get to meet the Queen, so actually, it's I have a picture. You can't see my face; it's just me shaking her hand, but she's smiling, and I love but it's me because of the hair.
Yeah.
Which actually was wow. Never
And you've
thought
not
I'd
met the
meet
king
the
yet?
Queen. Yes, I have.
Oh, have you? Right. When he was king or when he was prince?
So I met him when he was prince.
Yeah.
But also March 20. Hang on, what year? Yeah, so March last year, I was made a Privy Councillor.
Okay.
So I'm one of the King's Privy Council.
Right,
so
can you give us a bit more detail on that? 'Cause,
yeah, so
us mere minions have no idea what you're talking about.
yeah, so basically, it's a really old tradition. It goes right back for it goes right back to I think sort of Henry VIII days.
Okay.
And basically the king of the day used to, before we have this operation, you would have your you'd have a privy council of your councillors who would be your advisors.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, it's one of those. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So when it was, direct,
Oh,
when
right. So you have an advisor to the king.
Well, but there's lots of us.
Don't you have to tell people that? It doesn't sound good when you say that.
But it's a really sort of a privilege to be it, basically. So what happens now, the Privy Council today is more or less made up of cabinet members of the government of the day.
Okay.
But there are a number of people that are Privy Councillors. So, there's a number of opposition members. But it's one of those things that you once you're made a Privy Councillor, you're a Privy Councillor for life.
Oh, nice.
Right. Oh, brilliant.
Do you get chosen for that, or do you have to be elected?
So normally, the reason I was made
Raffle.
Privy Councillor, no. So what happens is if you're in the cabinet, in general, you become a Privy Councillor, so you'll become a Right Honourable. I was made a Privy Councillor because the convention was Deputy Chief Whips become Privy Councillors.
Okay.
So that's how it was honoured, because I was a Deputy Chief Whip. So even though I wasn't attending cabinet, it was convention that Deputy Chief Whips become Privy Councillors. So that's why I was given the opportunity to do that, which was, I'm really pleased.
Well, I just keep thinking of films when you've got a king there, and then you get someone that goes to the king, and then they go off with his head.
But it's meant to be private, and the king still has Privy Council meetings all of the time.
Okay.
But generally, the ones that go to every meetings are the cabinet. Yeah. And Penny Mordaunt is the president of the council, as the leader of the House of Commons. And the king will, or the queen then, or there's a convention. They're always held standing up. So they're meetings at Buckingham Palace with the people standing up rather than sat down.
Right, okay.
And there's sort of a ceremony that we have to go through when you get sworn into the council.
Okay.
Is
that like a day-long thing, or?
No. It's only just a few, just a
couple of minutes
at the beginning of a Privy Council meeting, which is meant to be secret. You're not meant to disclose anything that goes on at Privy Council, and that hence
we've
Privy.
just had someone from the Magic Circle in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
same thing.
That's right. And but yeah, I mean, for me, it's an immense privilege, because I mean, and also you just sort of think, crumbs, I'm a local girl from Strood, I've been able to, and there I am. I was sort of a bit taken back by it all, because I'm going to Buckingham Palace and getting an opportunity to speak directly to the king.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I mean, I'm still things, I don't take it for granted.
No, without a doubt. You should be proud of yourself for being a
So I was very, so that's brilliant. And he's actually really a nice guy. So when I met him, he's got a great sense of humour. He is really interested in what's going on. He's very engaged, so he wants to ask questions, but he's got a sense of humour. And so I'm actually, I'm a fan of him.
Yeah.
I think having met him and sort of, because again, you only ever get told what you read in the
press
media.
Yep, absolutely.
And then when you meet
and they don't want to talk about anything nice, do they? They only want to talk about bad things.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm a fan of him.
Good.
Yeah. And actually,
I haven't got a problem with Charles personally. Not at all.
and I would also say as well, actually I have huge respect. My respect for the royal family has increased since I've been a member of Parliament, because I have seen some of them at work and I've been incredibly impressed by some of them, and I don't think we really understand the level of work that some of them do because it's not publicised. And even with regards to the Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, I mean, I was at a Queen's Awards function once, and those two girls, the way they engaged with the businesses, the way they engaged with they were fantastic. And I was so impressed with them.
And you don't hear anything about
You
those.
never hear anything about them, but the way, and they were genuinely interested in the people they were talking to. And I was, and it was really nice to see.
Yeah.
So,
did you speak to them?
but again, normal young women who, are fulfilling a duty, incredibly respectful. But
it's weird because they say that they're all privileged and all that, but these people, in my opinion, are imprisoned.
Yeah,
they are. In a way, they are, aren't they? They can't live their life. We can just do anything we want. They can't. They're imprisoned, but
they
in a rich way, obviously.
So hard though.
Yeah.
They literally
it's their life.
24/7.
It's their life.
Yeah.
They do, and some of them do it incredibly well. And you speak as you're fine. I mean, the one that Princess Anne, when you see her at some of these functions where she just get up and she speak off script for a long time about these, she's a superb as well. I mean, they're all.
Yeah.
I mean, I as I say, having been a member of Parliament and seen some of that engagement on the outside, I've become even more.
Respectful
of what the royal family do.
Yeah.
And actually, and they care. Everyone makes mistakes, but they take it seriously.
So royal weddings?
No,
Oh.
they're not on my speed dial.
Bang out of order, isn't
So you didn't have to put
Yeah.
your hat on and
Kel, it's William. Want to come to our wedding?
Yeah, no, I haven't been to any royal weddings.
Okay.
The only thing that I was very privileged and incredibly lucky to do was I was at the coronation.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
that's maybe what I see then.
Yes, that's
maybe what I see. When I did a little bit of research and forgot about it.
well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm really not that. I've never been that lucky before, but I literally, obviously, all MPs wanted to be able to be at the coronation. Well, actually, everyone wanted to be at the coronation, and they had to limit the numbers.
Okay.
So there was a ballot for MPs, and we had to submit into a ballot to get a ticket, and I won the ballot. I was one of the ones that
So it literally
got a ticket in the ballot.
was a lottery.
It was a lottery, and
it's the fairest way to do it.
so it was because there was only a limited number of seats, and so I mean, phenomenal, really.
So was it just yourself? It was,
so you don't. It was literally just individual tickets.
Yeah,
and so when we were sat in a part of Westminster Abbey. So as you came into the Abbey, you had the nave, and then there was. So I was sat with the Lords, people who had got tickets, and us were sat together, and that was all parties, so it was all mixed up as well. So just the politicians,
Well, like you say,
politicians in that corner.
They're different parties, but you work with these people. They're, in theory, they're workmates.
your colleagues.
In
That's
right.
So I mean, literally, I was just a guest, and obviously we saw everyone who walked through, and we were very impressed with our Penny. I say our Penny Morden. She was just,
Didn't she look?
she looked
she's amazing.
stunning.
Amazing, and
that's the one with that lovely dress, isn't it?
I love that dress and the colour.
Didn't she design it herself or something?
yeah, she did. So the Privy Council uniform is a male uniform, obviously.
Yeah, and she sort of sculpted it in a...
Yeah.
It looks so cool. It's like something out of Star Wars.
That's right. Yeah. And it looked good. And it was, rather than wearing sort of the male equivalent, it was
really, really good.
Yeah, very good.
So what did you wear and how long did it take you to pick something?
Well, literally, I literally, there's a dress company that I always buy my stuff online from, and I saw something that I thought was, so I bought that online, and a great lady called Elaine Wilkinson over in Gillingham made my hairpiece.
Right.
She sort of works making sort of fascinators and hattinators.
I have to get her in.
Yeah,
she can come in.
And she's great, and she just, she did a wonderful job, sort of, making me like I had a navy. It was blue because, despite I'm wearing red today, even though I do like blue and green. They're my colours, And it was turquoise blue with a navy blue hat and shoes and stuff like that. But I mean, it was a phenomenal day. It was brilliant, and the programme, the invitation. And I just think, well, I've got my little things to pass on to my nieces.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Us Brits do know how to knock out a ceremony, though, don't we?
Oh, yeah. And everyone was watching it. And the sad thing actually was, if you were there for the coronation, you missed all the stuff going on. So, I mean, I always say, actually, some of these things, people watching on the TV would have had a great...
Yeah.
So was there like a celebration afterwards, or was it sort of like he's crowned, you can go home now? Or
Yeah, I mean, apart from for the sort of the dignitaries and the foreign, our guests sort of as a country and senior members of government, there was but for the rest of us it was, So
you didn't have a role to play as far as catering for foreign, invites.
So I was, so I was just a backbencher. So I wasn't a minister at that time. So there were functions, but that was only for the, senior. The cabinet members, and stuff like ministers. So I was just, I was part of the congregation.
Right.
So, and then actually, all we did afterwards, we went over because we had to go back to the House of Commons afterwards. I think some of us were just sort of, there was no bar open or anything like that. But we all just sort of sat there going, "Oh my God, we've just been to the coronation. This is phenomenal."
Amazing,
who would ever? Most of us don't
it's the
get
first
to
one in 72 years, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that's brilliant.
Phenomenal.
So going back to obviously when you have to put bills across and you have to stand up in Parliament, do you get? You enjoy what you do clearly, but do you get a little bit nervous or a little bit sort of, oh God, I need to take a breath sort of thing? Or
I think you do. I remember when I did my maiden speech, the first time I spoke in Parliament, my leg kept shaking. I was standing up and my leg wouldn't stop doing that. And it was, and I just thought everybody could see my leg going like this. But you sort of, it's like if you talk to actors or actresses, they will always say, they always feel, even before they do something, there's always a bit of
there has to be a little bit.
And I think if you're not nervous, then you're probably not going to do your best.
That's exactly what we say for weddings. The day I'm not nervous about filming someone's special day, where I get one chance to film it, is the day I'm going to stop.
Absolutely. And I think it's probably the same. And I think it depends as well. Are you going to say something controversial? Are you? Do you know what I mean? Are you going to get grief for it? Who's going to be watching, how the government are going to respond, how your colleagues will respond. So I think there's a whole number of questions that go through your mind when you're sort of thinking about what you're going to say. But of course you sort of get apprehensive. I mean, because you care.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you ever been, obviously you've been in the House when it's really kicked off between Labour and Conservatives and even the others. Have you ever then finished and go out the back with the people that you've been around with? Go, cool, that really hurt.
That really
tipped off today.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, again, quite often a lot of it in the. So, for example, even when
We're only seeing the bad bits.
Yeah,
again.
you do. I mean, and also there's sort of, even as a minister, so there's been times when I've had my opposite.
Number.
The shadow.
Yeah.
We've had a dust up in the chamber. And then then you walk out the door and it tends not to carry on.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
There might be some exceptions to the rules, but that's more down to them as individuals than the minister and the shadow, as opposed to. Of course.
Has anyone? Well, you probably wouldn't answer this anyway. But has there ever been a sort of, face-to-face out? It's carried on outside to the point where people have had to go, hang about. So, calm down.
Not that I've witnessed. No. Not that I've witnessed. Of course, there's been arguments, but, between people on their own side.
Yeah.
So, but not that I've witnessed, no. I mean, people are, yes, this is important stuff. So people get sort of, there's high emotion, but, I mean, you need to be able to control yourself.
How often do you liaise with, like, the Prime Minister yourself?
Well, it depends really. I mean, because you tend to only sort of speak to him when you need to. But we see him quite a lot. He's around a lot. He's in the tea room. He'll come in after P&Qs.
He's in the tea room. It just don't. Seems weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a little cat, like on The Apprentice.
Of course, they've got to eat as well. But just saying, like, he's just in the canteen.
Yeah, he's pretty good at getting round to seeing people, and you can, if you need to talk to him, you generally will be able to.
Right. Okay.
And he has sort of, how it works in Parliament is that he has something called a Parliamentary Private Secretary, which is basically another MP who is sort of responsible for that engagement with members of Parliament. Okay. So, if you need something, you'll sort of say, oh, Craig.
Almost like
Craig Williams is his current PPS.
Yeah.
And we say, Craig, I really need to talk to the Prime Minister about this, but so you get opportunities as well. And we all have his number as well. So we can.
You can share that with me.
Yeah. So we
come on a podcast.
Yeah, and I have to say, Rishi is pretty. He's pretty he's good at communicating, and he's pretty easy to get hold of.
Oh, good.
If you need to. But, you need to respect the fact that he's a Prime Minister.
Of course, yeah. So and I'm sure you've experienced some that are harder to get hold of.
Exactly.
Because you've been through, 4 or 5?
Yeah. So, David Cameron, Theresa May.
Boris,
yeah. Liz.
Yeah. Couldn't remember her name for some reason. It was so quick. 5.
Yeah.
Blimey. Okay.
Which has been interesting. And then obviously David Cameron, the first Prime Minister I served under, has come back as a Foreign Secretary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Who was a very nice man.
I was going to ask the question, but I didn't know whether to. Did you get on all right with him?
Well, he obviously was the Prime Minister when I stood for election.
Yeah.
And he was very nice to me personally. He was, I always sort of, obviously debate what you can about the decisions he took as Prime Minister. But as an individual, I had a great respect for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked him. I've got to be honest, I liked him. I'd lost a bit of respect for him where he left because of the decision.
Yeah.
He should have stuck it out, just because he didn't get the decision that he wanted.
People, I think, were. I think a lot of people were very sad. I do think it would have been difficult for him to have continued.
Maybe he was fully.
He would have,
on the stay, wasn't he? He was fully remained.
They would have made it difficult for him. But it's been a roller coaster really over these years.
Yes, from that moment. From that moment, everything happened, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Everything. Yeah. So it was going to be hard for whoever was there.
Yeah. But it's been an interesting, interesting time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you want to name your favourite out of the 5? You don't have to.
No, she can't do that. No, actually, I don't really have it. No, not really. No, I'm not going to. No. Oh, well, God, I'm going to say the current one.
You've got to say the current one.
ultimately though, it is like it's a work environment. They are you will be happy with some of the things they do and say. You will be unhappy with some of the things you do and say.
And unfortunately, that's his job. He's never going to please everyone,
and he's
even
not
his
going
own
to please
party.
his MPs, and none of them do and will. And but again, the beauty of it is, if I've got a disagreement with what the Prime Minister says, I deal with it and we do. I mean, that's why you have the Whip's office. One of the functions when I was a whip, one of the functions of the Whip's office is to basically make sure you are the Prime Minister's eyes and ears and enforcers in the House of Commons. You work for the Prime Minister, and it's for you to be able, as a whip, to be able to pass on concerns of MPs, deal with any issues that they may have, try and get those issues resolved. And that's a function of the Whip's office. So that he or her, whoever's the Prime Minister, understand what the parliamentary party are thinking about what they're doing and saying.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
But people forget sometimes that it is a job, don't they? They think it's just their way of life and they have to serve us as the general public, but they forget it's a job at the end of the day.
It's a vocation. I think it's
got to
a
have a passion for it.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to say, right, enough is enough. I've got to switch off, otherwise I'm going to have no personal life. I'm going to have no.
Have you ever switched off?
That is what I mean. This is the interesting thing. I say I'm lucky. My friends, my friendship group are not politicians. My mates, the people that I go to, they're normal people who've actually all been very, good, and I'm very lucky. And they've put up with a lot because, I've missed birthdays, weddings, holidays, trips. I don't see them because I can't get out of Parliament, because you're in Parliament and you have to be there. You can't just.
Sorry guys, I've got to go. I've got a birthday party.
Imagine that. There's a massive debate.
That's right.
Just got to go. My mate's got a 21st.
That's it. So I always say I'm lucky. So my mates that I've still got after all this time, I know are my true mates because they basically put up with me being a really crap friend. And they still sort of support me. So I'm lucky.
So can you see yourself doing it till you pushed out? Or whatever,
Yeah, I will. And I would say, that's exactly it. I will do it until I'm pushed out because, for me, it's been the greatest privilege of my life to represent the place I have literally been born and bred in and my family come from. And, I'm not saying it because I'm the Member of Parliament, but my where we live has got faults, but I'm incredibly proud of where I come from. I'm incredibly proud of this constituency and the people within it. And I do want to, I'm glad it's me who isn't, where I can push for those things that I want for this area and other people want for this area. So I will. I will have to be pushed out because I want to be able to continue doing that and being that voice for the area, because quite often if we're talking about things at a local level, of course on national different policies, but from a local standpoint, more often than not, I'm exactly in agreement with my constituent because I am one of the constituents that I try and represent. So, like you say, it has
its faults, but there's some beautiful, like Rochester High Street. I love Rochester High Street. It's like going on holiday, just going down there. I mean, it's beautiful. We've got some lovely places.
It's history and it's just amazing.
But
where else can you drive past a 1,000-year-old castle? Literally drive past it, and it's that distance away from you. We do that on a school run.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's not just Rochester. You've got Upnor. You've got. We've got. We've got internationally significant bird breeding sites out on the peninsula. So some of our habitats out there are internationally important.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've got a deep water port. At Thamesport, we've got a river, we've got all this history, we've got, Horning and Cuxton. Again, they're so different to Rochester, and they're the only other side of the river. there's so much here. It's so diverse. We've got the history is immense across the Medway towns, and our industrial history as well as. But I always say the classic thing, when at one point on the River Medway we had something like 38 cement works. Wow. And one of the things I said in my
blue circle was everywhere, wasn't it? Do you remember back then?
And so I always say to people, if you see a chalk cliff, that's a sign there was a cement works.
They dug it all out.
That's right. Yeah. And actually, one of the things I said in my maiden speech when I was first elected was that the concrete that went to rebuild San Francisco after the earthquake in the early part of the 20th century came from the River Medway.
So that's our little claim to fame.
And there's loads of things like that, So Francis
all the way
Drake
up the Thames,
Sale.
paper mills as well. Paper mills everywhere.
Because we took
that's why I was in the paper mill industry. So
because we took the kids down to Portsmouth, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we went on the Victory and everything like that. And there was a part of it that
Built at
said,
Chatham.
And then we said, look, kids, this is where you're from. Like, oh my God, that's amazing. We didn't realise that. And it's little things like that. You can say, yes, that's where we're from. It's amazing.
So when we've got loads of that, and there's loads of snippets of really interesting local history, and I'm Aveling and Porter in Strood, the building, which obviously was just where the civic centre park. They made steamrollers, but they were what they made was shipped all over the world. They were one of the most important engineering, and that was just one organisation in Strood, because we had lots of engineering in Strood at one time, just some of the things are just quite phenomenal. Not in my constituency, but we're the home of the Jubilee clip.
Of course, I know, and I used Jubilee clips for a lot of time, and it's when you just go under the tunnel and you see it on the left, don't you?
Exactly.
Where the Jubilee clip comes from. You wouldn't even think it was from here.
And so there's so many things, and there's a lot of these towns.
I think we're very spoiled, and we don't realise we are until we actually sit down and say, this is what we've got in this county. We don't actually realise, and we are very spoiled. We take it for granted, I think.
And that's right. And, there are things that need improving, or there are things that go wrong. But it's so diverse. I always say my constituency is so diverse, even though relatively it's a small geographical area. But we've got villages, we've got towns. I know we've got pressures with house building and pressures on our green spaces at the moment, but we've got some really lovely places to live here.
Yeah, we have.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I've really
this is
enjoyed
usually where
it.
I say, was you nervous? But you ain't going to be nervous. You've dealt with more questions than this before. So brilliant.
Great.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's the other thing. The other thing we don't ever mention. We usually have businesses in.
Oh, right.
And we usually say, how do they get hold of you? But
Oh, yes.
do you want to do that?
Yeah, that's right.
This is going to be the worst mistake you've ever made.
Basically, people can telephone me or email me. I've got a website. All they need to do is put my name into the browser and my email address will pop up. But basically, my email is kelly.tolhurst.mp@parliament.uk. And, if you do have issues, or I deal with a lot of casework, I try and help people as much as I can. So and I always say to people, get in touch, because lots of other people do get in touch with me about their problems, and I'm able to help them. So that's what we're there for.
What about sort of...
Here we go. This is always happens, right? We go, thank you for coming on the show. And then there's another 10-minute conversation afterwards.
What about not just problems, like praises and everything like that as well? If someone's done something really good in the community.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, we're saying a lot of negative things like get in touch if you've got a problem. But what happens if someone's done something really good in the community itching, they want to share that.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I started a really good podcast or something like that.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I was
I
thinking
don't know anyone.
doing a charity walk.
A charity walk. Yeah, Rachel's got a
No.
charity walk she's doing for Demelza.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
I'm
Oh, that's
going over
fabulous.
to Peru to do the Inca Trail.
Oh,
Yeah, but don't
wow.
you class that as a jolly? I class it
No,
as a jolly.
it's not a jolly. When
It's
I've
not
got
going to be a jolly.
it's really not.
I mean,
She's
it's
doing the
nice
Inca
to go and
Trail.
do the Inca Trail. I mean, that's going to be really
She could do exactly the same distance round here, couldn't she?
Yeah, but it's not quite the same, is it? I don't know if you'll get the sponsorship for just walking around Strood 4 times, or whatever. But no, you're right. Look, positive things, and people do actually. So people are good, and actually people are asked we've got this person who's done this, that, and the other. How can we help them? And so it's not all negative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and also just flagging it, because sometimes something's greats happen. We can, because we've got a platform, we can give them recognition.
Yeah.
Mention it in the House of Commons. Something positive, or share something. So positive stuff is great as well. Yeah. But people do contact me about positive stuff as well.
Good. That's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice positive note to end it on.
Brilliant. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Right.
Thanks for watching or listening. I would give you the details, but if you're watching or listening, you know the details. So that's how good we are, Kel. That's why we don't get anyone on here. Thanks very much. This podcast has been brought to you by Snugdubs Camper Van Hire.
Roam the world, park anywhere.
That's snugdubs.co.uk. This podcast was brought to you today by Austin's Eatery on Station Road, Strood.
Try the Viking Challenge.